Good morning and welcome to another edition of Daybreak on Trust TV. We're right here live in the nation's capital, and it's a beautiful day to actually be alive. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm Zainab Bala. It's a beautiful morning here, and we're super excited to have you join us on the program this morning.
Yes, indeed. Today on the show, APC crisis takes a new turn as Niger State Governor takes over as acting caretaker chair. And also youth and entrepreneurship growth is what we'll be discussing with our guests on our discussions today.
As usual, we'll be bringing you the top headlines making headway on our dailies this morning, and also today in history and some other discussions on the program. But before we do that, let's take a look at the news highlights. Hussaina?
All right. Embattled Governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, on Tuesday stressed that he remains the governor of the state, not minding the ruling by the Federal High Court in Abuja. Briefing newsmen in his office at the new government house at Abakaliki, Umahi, who described the ruling as jungle justice and purchased judgment, also noted that the ruling is not a good development for the judiciary. The court had sacked Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe from office and directed that the duo should not parade themselves as governor and deputy governor respectively. Similarly, chairman of the APC in the state, Stanley Emega, in a swift reaction, said the presiding judge erred in his judgment, which he described as an abuse of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, noting that already a subsisting judgment of a high court in Abakaliki and also in Zamfara State ruled that a serving governor or his deputy cannot be sacked from office on account of their defection to another party.
And also still talking politics, Secretary of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, Senator John Akpani-Odeye has resigned. Reports say the embattled secretary submitted his resignation letter to Caretaker Committee, Acting Chairman and Governor of Niger State, Abubakar Bello, during a routine meeting of the committee at the party secretariat in Abuja.
All right, moving on. There is heavy presence of security operatives at the Gani Fawahimi Park in Ojota, Lagos, where some youths proposed to protest for slain Bamishe Ayanwole. The Lagos State Police Command on Monday confirmed the death of Bamishe, who went missing after boarding a bus rapid transport, which is the BRT bus service, on February 26. Following the outrage that trailed Bamishe's alleged gruesome murder, some youths vowed to embark on a protest on Tuesday. In a flyer shared on Twitter, the youths vowed to storm the secretariat in Alausa, Ikeja, and all BRT terminals in Lagos State. This is actually a really sad one. I read somewhere that immediately she entered the BRT, she sensed something was really wrong, and she sent pictures, even though it was dark. She sent pictures and voice notes codedly to her friend, telling her that there are only 3 people in the bus except her, 1 lady and 2 other men, minus the driver and all that. She took necessary precautions, and it's just like when you're in Abuja and every weekend you travel to Kaduna, to be with family. It was exactly what she was, why she was in the BRT bus, traveling to Otta to see her family and everything. And this happened, really sad one. And I actually read somewhere that she was found with her privates missing.
That's really tragic. It's really sad that we get to see these kind of stories, happen. But a lot of people are asking, who would really want to, kill her? What exactly is their motive in the first place?
This is why even the Minister of Information is actually pushing, against ritual killings, an end to ritual killings and a whole lot of stuff. It's really crazy. Can one ever be safe? Can you ever be safe?
It's really sad.
Even if, despite the fact that she actually took all necessary precautions, I mean, what could she have done in that moment? She was behind. You know how, big BRT buses are. If she had decided to actually calm down, it's possible that they were all in it together. But the good thing is the driver of that particular bus has been arrested. And hopefully,
Nigeria is one thing to arrest, suspects, I would say, and it's another to see how the case pans out. I saw her mother wailing bitterly, just like yesterday. Ayuba was talking about how those that were consoling the mother were now being funny about it, But I really hope, the case turns out good and we see subsequent reactions following this.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, with that, it's a wrap on news highlights. We'll take a look at what happened today, historically. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. On Today in History, in 1962, Egyptian President Nasser declares Gaza belongs to Palestinians. In 1983, Zimbabwe opposition leader Joshua Nkomo flees to Botswana. And in 2012, Indian batsman Rahul Dravid announces his retirement from Test and domestic cricket. Now, for someone who's in sports to actually retire at such a young age, it says a whole lot, because if you compare it to, one who actually does a 9-to-5 job, retiring, imagine at 21, they actually pay, sportsmen really, really well.
Maybe he's quite accomplished what he wanted to at that time, and then he wanted to look someplace else, for other life accomplishments.
And then he must have actually had probably a lot of investment, set his life forward, retired at a very early age.
Cricket
nothing beats that.
Cricket is India's thing. Everybody that knows cricket knows that it's for Indians, and they're way, way, way ahead in that sportsmanship. And we're super glad they're making it anyway. But I've not seen any Nigerian do cricket. Have you?
No. What about baseball? I'm sure that I know there are actually some similarities between baseball and cricket, and I don't think even rugby. I think Nigerians are just beginning to, enter that particular sport. There are lots of sports that Nigerians are just running and football. Okay, all right. Now, with this, we will take a quick breather, and when we come back, it'll be time for the newspaper review. Do stay.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
When a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, let's take a look at some of the stories making headway on our dailies this morning. And we're going to begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story there says how bandits ambushed, killed 63 vigilantes in Kebbi. And the writers there say informants leaked plan to repel bandits' attack. Buhari urges proactive action. And then to other stories on the Daily Trust newspaper, there's a pictorial there that shows you the protest, a protest rather, by some group of women, all over the country, to protest, the gender bills that were kicked against at the National Assembly, just as they were commemorating the International Women's Day. You'd also see other stories right on the top on page 11. Yeah, court sack, Ebonyi governor kicks as PDP nominates replacements. Airlines groan as aviation fuel exceeds 600 naira per litre. You'd also see other stories. Governor's wife storm National Assembly, protest rejection of pro-women bills. And on page 20, many injured, shops burned as Yoruba Hausa clash in Ogun. You know, I really don't like to hear stories about ethnicity like this. But we do hope, you know, we move away from stories like this. And you find details of that story on page 20. And on page 15, Osun governorship, Adeleke picks PDP ticket. Babayemi emerges parallel candidate. Reverend son drills borehole at Kaduna Mosque. Quite very, very interesting. These are the kind of stories I like to see. Well, you find the details of that story on page 20 on the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, we'll move on to the next newspaper, which is the Punch newspaper. Right at the top there, at the header, you'd find CBN increases currency in circulation by 418 billion naira over cash transactions. Details of that on page 32. We also have APC to release zoning formula, suspends zonal congress amid confusion. PDP submits Umahi's replacement to INEC, sacked governor sits tight. And we have writers that talks about court sacking 15 lawmakers, says Umahi legislators can't transfer PDP votes. I remain governor, echoes judgment meant to embarrass APC, federal government says Umahi. And details of that on page 2. The lead story talks about crude oil price, and man warns of hyperinflation. Subsidy hits 400 naira, diesel 625 naira. And writers here say aviation fuel hits 580 naira per liter. Air travelers stranded to pay more. We rely on diesel. Rise in price means higher cost of production, says man. And right below that pictorial there, you'd find a story that says International Women's Day, close gender gap between men, women in governance, says minister. Buhari mourns as bandits kill 40 vigilantes in Kebbi ambush. Power disruption looms as second Niger bridge gets April completion date. Scores injured, shops burned as Yoruba Hausa traders clash in Ogun State. And right below the page, you have Osun PDP governorship primaries produce Adeleke Babayemi as candidates. We have on the unfortunate incidents that happened to Bamishe, Sanwo-Olu slams critics, BRT suspends operations, family demands justice. Details of that on page 4 and 5. And then Tinubu proposes meeting with APC reps caucus on presidential bid. And you can find more of that story on page 7.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Nation newspaper. The Nation leads APC's soft landing for Buni as Sani Bello consolidates. Yobe Governor Akpanu Doede eased out. Senate caucus decries uncertainty. You'd find other stories right on page 29. International Women's Day. Protest over rejected gender bills. Governors' wives join push for action. House to reconsider no votes. That's good news. On page 27 and 28, Adeleke Babayemi claim Osun PDP governorship ticket. And then you see the story about Electoral Act amendment. Court can't stop us, says Senate. These are some of the major stories on The Nation this morning.
All right, we'll take the finest paper, which is the final paper, which is the Guardian newspaper. And we have the lead there that says court sacks Umahi deputy, axes 16 lawmakers over defection. And we have a lot of writers. One says Umahi sues for peace, vows to appeal decision. Judgment contradictory to constitution, says counsel. PDP names Igariwe Udogo as new Ebonyi governor deputy. Asks INEC to issue certificate of return to them. Charges Ebonyi chief judge to swear in its nominees immediately. Court can't remove them for defecting. Ozekames insists it's too radical and a departure from warden of our constitution. Obiarere says decision has opened a new vista, says Ugumandu. All right, at the top there, you'd find stories that says total darkness looms as 14 power generation plants cripple supply. Lawan rejects court order on amendment of Electoral Act. Gender bills, equality, others to top agenda as Nigerians mark International Women's Day. And right below that page, diesel nears 650 naira per litre as firms, residents embrace alternatives. And then we have Bello takes charge, says APC zoning formula ready. Details of that on page 26. And these are some of the papers that we have on our list today.
Okay, we have the Director News, Voice of Nigeria, Ben Shemag in the studio with us to give us perspectives on some of these stories this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now we're still in the mood of celebrating the International Women's Day, and yesterday we saw, quite a number of women protest, the gender, bills that were kicked against by the National Assembly. In your assessment, would you say this will in any way prompt, the National Assembly to rethink and go back on their decision, looking at how the situation has turned out eventually?
Absolutely, I think it should make the lawmakers have a rethink. After all, it said that the law itself is made for man or meant for man, and not man for the law. Where the law is injurious, you amend it. And that's where we are seeing the tinkering or some changes in the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. So we expect that there are already some green lights that the National Assembly will revisit some of the bills they had thrown away. And you look at the pressure. Some women organizations, local and international, they've been at the gate of the National Assembly doing a blockade and crying very loud that, look, we deserve this, we should have it, it is our right. And I think it is good to have it so. And you can also see that wives of governors have joined hands. But again, as for the wives of the governors, some 2 weeks ago it was alleged they chartered a plane to go give First Lady some birthday.
I think that was debunked.
We expect, honestly, I think that once we have this kind of a thing, they should always come out quick to debunk all of that, so that we see them as women of virtue, people the younger ones should look forward to in terms of emulation. They should be seen as mentors. So it's nice that those things have always been debunked. It's also nice that they should also be marching to the National Press Council. So look, this story was carried in error. It never happened, so that we have a good polity, so to speak.
Okay, now NAS has actually talked about revisiting other gender bills, but not the slots for women in Parliament. Don't you think they're just trying to probably hush the women so they stop the protests?
Well, it's right that people will always think and interpret situations. I saw before now that the National Assembly at the point said, look, instead of having 3 senators per state, let us have 4, so that the 4th is always a woman. But some people also think that, okay, let there be a concession. The 3 should be there. Make a woman to just occupy the 3rd seat. So that you could say, okay, the central part, where the where the government house is, you can give that to a woman, because we're talking of inflation, we're talking of high cost of everything. You're now going to create the 4th. Why don't we, if we actually mean it, just give the woman a 3rd position? I mean, a 3rd seat, and that could be the central. If you say which the site should therefore be given. In my own opinion, you give it the central. If, for example, you say Kaduna Central, you give it the Kaduna Metropolis, and the woman will come from there. There's nothing wrong. If you say you have a Kogi West, Kogi East, then the central, and where the central is, the center is, and that's where the governor is, give it to the woman. So I think it's a good deal, instead of creating this. So when you create, I think It's my suggestion, yeah.
Interesting. Now, we're also seeing that bandits ambushed and killed 63 vigilantes, in Kebbi State. And we're also hearing that some informants, gave information to repel bandits' attack.
Yes, let me just tell you in a very short sentence. I went to change some tires last week. Then there was this woman frying this corn bean cake, yam by the roadside. Then she started parking suddenly. Some guys wanted to buy. Madam, why are you parking? Said, this phone call I just received is somebody calling me from FCT that task force will soon be in our area. It was so interesting, I decided to wait. Believe me, around 20 minutes, the task force came. In other words, there is an insider in the task force who indeed is busy feeding a fellow villager or a relation or something. Look, we are coming to that place. And the woman just simply parked in and they came in. They never saw anything. They were going for demolition. They were not after Akara people. In other words, even when you have security agencies going for missions, you see that there are always moles, there are always Judases, people who indeed are ready to betray the process by providing information to the bandits also. It says a lot. We thought that when we were told to register these phone lines, we should be able to track all these kind of bad guys in society. It's bad thing, it's bad omen, it's bad conduct, it's never the best. And that's why even when you are recruiting people in either police force, civil defense, army, air force, navy, security agencies, proper checking, proper profiling to know who really they are before they are enlisted or recruited, and so that we don't have this kind of betrayers. And that's why Boko Haram, the fight against terrorism, is taking a long time in Borno State, in northeast of Nigeria, and now in central Nigeria. We need to have people who indeed have the love for humanity, the love for nationhood, for nation, and so that banditry will come to an end.
Well, these killings, is there a connection with the 200, that were actually killed last week?
You see, most of these things, you always have some people who will know security plans. You begin to know even names of commanders. You begin to know names, where they reside. You begin to know the caliber, the kind of weapons they are carrying. You begin to know the routes they are taking, and you now betray that to bandits. So, yes, you see that it's always having to do with some people somewhere betraying a cause. We are always supposed to be loyal to the country. We should not make bandits to sound and appear like heroes. We should make them look they are down there and the security agencies are up there. The security agencies are the dominant forces. They are the aggressors. They determine who is in charge when it comes to the fight against terrorism. And therefore, we expect that people should rather provide information to security agencies and not the other way around. When you do all of that, what's your benefit? When indeed people have been killed just anyhow. But we expect that those who have taken up arms against fellow human beings, against their nation, should face the full scale, the wrath of the law.
From the look of things, it looks like we have intelligence gathering problems in Nigeria. What do we go? What do we do from here?
Honestly, you see, intelligence gathering, there's nothing wrong in recruiting taxi drivers, nothing wrong in recruiting shoe shiners, nothing wrong in recruiting market women and women so that they serve as intelligence people. I expect that the security agencies should also infiltrate motor parks and be part of the show there. And there's nothing wrong when they fraternize with local hunters. Nothing wrong when you begin to move with traditional rulers, district heads, village heads, ward heads, because these people tend to know many of these villagers here and there. And we expect that the security agencies should imbibe that kind of a thing. We should not just believe in this formal training. You go to NDA, go to crimes detecting schools. No, let us also imbibe the informal sector when it comes to crime detection, crime deterrent, and control.
Okay, now I've actually read reports, where the presidency actually said that, banditry would actually end, by the end of this year. Do you think they're actually winning the war, or are the bandits themselves, outsmarting and,
Let me be frank to you. I think they are winning the wars. Those days that used to have this bombing here and there, we no longer hear them that. Those days that bandits would storm places of worship, it's rather a thing of the past. What they do is when they are hungry, you go to markets and surround villages, carry their goods, carry their food, and you go to feed. They go to feed themselves in the bushes. I think that the security agencies are winning. The bandits are never on top of their own game. That's why they are involving this kind of guerrilla tactics, hit and run. If you know you are capable, hit and stay. And so I think that the security agencies are on top of the game. What remains is just this kind of betrayals we have in the system. And like Bob Marley would say, a hungry man is an angry man. And also, when you say you leave busy fingers having nothing to do, so they just have as willing tools for those who indeed do not mean good for society. And so we need to create jobs. If you're having some jobs, create some farms. I mean, let there be some lines of divide. Yes, cattle rearing, do it this way. Those farmers, do it this way. This is where you go, and let us be good to our conscience, various conscience. I mean, we cannot just go killing. I want to kill on behalf of God. I want to kill, go on killing spree, feeling like, no.
We actually have a lot of Nigerian young men who are willing to fight for another country than, help fight against Boko Haram and
maybe they're scared to fight for the country because there is quite a lot of skepticism
at the Ukrainian embassy here. I said some Nigerians are willing to. Truly, I was asking some people, say, Oga, I go fight too. So why would some people want to go fight in another country, defend that country, yet you don't want to defend this country? I've also met some people, a journalist who was at the point, though long ago, said, look, if I can go out illegally and they catch me in some big countries and I'm in prison, look, I will read before I come back. I have my PhD. You can see the kind of thinking of some people. Therefore, it calls to mind government's contract with the electorate. Please serve the nation. Don't go into all this politicking of denying some areas, some people, because of either religion or where they belong or where they come from or because of tribe. No. Once you have been elected, you have been elected. Be magnanimous when it comes to providing dividends of democracy.
Okay. It seems like there's bad news, for the aviation sector. Just last week, we were talking about cutting down the cost, of airfares. And now we're seeing the price of diesel going quite very, very high. Well, what is really happening?
It's once the prices of any commodity, once the prices of commodities are high, of course there's going to be ripple effects generally. If they go to buy aviation fuel at a very high cost, and you want them to cut down price for passengers, they are not Father Christmas. Like it's always said, even in seeing Father Christmas, you paid at the gate. And Father Christmas will pretend to have given you a gift. It's because you have paid at the gate. And so, we honestly, since we were seeing about 3 weeks now, petrol scarcity or fuel scarcity, of course now it has gone into aviation. Now it's going into diesel. Look at many offices, government agencies running business via diesel. Look at the prices. Now it has gone to aviation. Of course, it's going to affect passengers. It's going to affect service. As I expect that Nigeria has been the first in terms of crude oil supply in Africa. I think we should also be making our refineries to work. I was just seeing some days ago, former President Jacob Zuma, whether it's through social media, his photograph was there, but there was a caption underneath commenting on fuel scarcity in Nigeria. He said, look, when you look at what Saudi Arabia has done, United Arab Emirates, and some other Arab countries, what they've done, used oil to do for their countries. He said, I wonder whether Nigeria has coconut oil and not fuel and not oil. You see, even though, yes, the man is being tried, if he actually said that, it says a lot about us. How are we the first? And what's our number in OPEC? We are even officials in OPEC, Secretary General of OPEC. We should be able. OPEC has even given us more latitude, export more. But are we producing those barrels? Are we? And during the Gulf War days, when you had what was called the windfall, there was an escrow account. If your budget was pegged on this, now you are getting that money. Now the war came, and there was high prices of crude oil. So the difference and some other thing, they created an account, and that was how Petroleum Trust Fund was given birth. And President Muhammadu Buhari was given that to manage. And of course, you could see some roads, you see PTF. You go to universities, you see lecture halls, theaters, hostels, you see PTF. And so, it's a bad thing, like the white man would say, fishing in troubled waters. That it's only when situations go bad, some people smile to banks. So, if during the Gulf War, yes, lives were lost, but Nigeria was gaining economically. Now we're having Russia-Ukraine conflict. Crude oil prices are going higher. Is it a plus to Nigeria? That's the kind of fishing in troubled waters. Should Nigeria be smiling to the bank because some people are being killed somewhere? But if it happens, what indeed are we using the excess, or what are we going to use it for? So these are things we should be looking out for. The economic team of the president, they should
into it.
Be looking at all of this.
Okay, now just to cushion the effects, that the increased price in aviation fuel would actually have on, customers. I read a report where some airlines have, resorted to, buying smaller airplanes.
Yeah, if you buy smaller airplanes, you also pick little passengers. It's just the same thing. But the ripple effect is, how will you also buy little cargo planes? You buy little cargo planes, and you have quite a lot to be ferried here. How do you do with the aviation fuel? Now we're talking of Nasarawa State, Kaduna State, Kano State,
less fuel.
all of them having dry seaports. aeroplanes will land there with cargo, because Lagos ports are becoming congested via the ships. So you can now fly in and land. So how will you handle that? Okay, I go by some little cargo planes. It does not add up at all. I think it's better for us to simply make our refineries to work.
But is it possible for these planes to be able to accommodate almost as much passengers, as the large planes can? Because one thing I noticed about the smaller planes is they're kind of, they're not as comfortable as the big planes because they're kind of, packed.
Yeah, they are packed, and sometimes when you have turbulent weathers, the impact is there. You just make some people high blood pressure. Everybody will now say, God, if I survive this now, I will commit no sin again. But the moment you learn again, you remember all the bad things you want to do. So in as much as we laugh over these things, they serve as some comic reliefs, but they are serious national issues that the aviation sector should be looking at. People of conscience, let us help this country. I was thinking that in terms of turning around maintenance of the 4 refineries in the country, the government should have simply said, look, let's give one of them, select one, and give it full attention, and so that it produce at optimal capacity, maximum capacity, and provide Nigerians what they want, while also promoting these modular refineries in terms of providing petrol. We expect all of that.
All right, we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the newspaper review.
Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms and recover without special treatment. However, some will become seriously ill and require medical attention. The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you're near someone who has COVID-19, or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings. Maintain a safe distance from others, at least 2 meters, even if they don't appear to be sick. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay home if you feel unwell. Get vaccinated. Properly fitted masks can help prevent the spread of the virus from the person wearing the mask to others. Masks alone do not protect against COVID-19 and should be combined with physical distancing and hand hygiene. Protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. Follow advice provided by your local health authority. This message is brought to you by Trust TV.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. It is still Trust TV, and you're watching Daybreak. And now we're still reviewing the papers, and this particular disheartening story of Bamishe, the lady who entered a BRT bus and, was killed in the process. We have the governor, Sanwo-Olu, slamming critics, BRT suspending operations, and also family demanding for justice. And we still have Shemang, in the studio with us. If you could actually, touch a little bit on this particular story.
My little understanding of Yoruba language, Bamishe, helped me to do it. Bamishe.
Very lovely name.
Yes. In other words, she's crying for all of us. Help me to get justice. Bamishe. And what are we going to do? And I want to call on passengers in particular. This one chance thing, even in Abuja here. The moment you're boarding a taxi or a cab, on Painted in particular, and some people begin to go out, then you enter, you are now at the center. It's suspicious. Don't join. Don't. Some people begin to tell you how they ought to print so money, and the thing is this, madam or oga, see. But what, by the way, how much, what are you carrying? It's money, our oga just this. We need to print so, but we need so chemical. People should be wise. This thing has been there for this long. Now back to Bamishe. You boarded a vehicle. Her instincts were telling her, look. This place looks suspicious. Why am I the only one here? And she started passing information immediately. The unfortunate thing is she was not in control of the steering. And now, only for this thing to happen, the driver, you parked your bus, you disappeared. You didn't disappear to a police station. Where were it? This thing happened in Lagos. Where were you found? In Ogun State. It doesn't add up at all.
Quite a distance.
So your innocence is like there is a connivance somewhere. And that's why when we're talking of even the security agencies joining to be conductors, joining to be drivers, to checkmate all of these things. There's nothing wrong in, but here we are. A driver is quite a lot of things are suspicious in this matter. But the story remains. Bamishe, let us look for justice. Let justice roll like a stream that must not be blocked. It must roll to its destination. And that's why every Nigerian, it's a good thing that you can see that this thing does not have a religious coloration. It doesn't have tribal coloration. People from all walks of life, people from every religion, they are condemning all of this, and they're calling on government. Let us collectively help to find justice, give justice to the family. And how do we stop all of this? And that also brings to mind, why is it that some of our vital parts have already been taken? These are ritual things, and when politics is coming, you see this kind of thing, they become so high. Some people are already calling that, in terms of Nollywood, where you have this magic, some people begin to play some pranks, you do this, money will just come, money magic, scenes that portray magic,
blood magic,
blood money, blood bath. There should be removed from the Nigerian Nollywood and all that stuff. Sometimes they sound too gory, some of these details. And we expect that those who are in that industry too should help, if actually it influences. But it's for them to also make some research. Is it true that when you watch this, it gives you a way of making money? And those who have been caught must be squeezed properly to ensure, look, who is sponsoring who. And once upon a time, there was one man under Oshodi Bridge in Lagos that was caught with all sorts of, even when people, it was not easy having that fund they call Not 9 Not. And they were like Turaya funds. That guy had them. And he had human parts in his custody. And under the bridge that people believed he was mad. If he was mad, how was he getting to Raya? And we expected that the telecommunications industry then would trace calls and see who indeed this man was communicating with. He had already grabbed a lady when he was seen. And that was how people rounded that area come and realized the man was speaking good English. He was simply pretending to be mad. So we expect the security agencies. Was it Shakespeare? They said there is an art in madness. Sometimes that madness you think somebody is engaged in is really not mad. He's just pretending. He's playing somebody's script in society. So I think the security agencies should look at it seriously.
You know, in the past few months, there's been, so many stories about ritual killings and all that. And then in most cases, it's, it happens after the deed has been done. We get to hear about it. But how can one actually protect themselves before it happens, before it's too late?
Yes, your ability to begin to shout. Yes, I want to get out of this vehicle. I'll break this windscreen. Yes, that is one. Two, sometimes we hear that somebody will bring one handkerchief in a car. He will do something, and before you know it, the victim is already dozing. Look, your instincts will always tell you something. Once you are boarding, you don't feel like, just come out. That is just obey your instincts. Sometimes
her friend actually advised her to drop at the nearest station, but I don't know. I don't think it actually worked out. I don't think.
Yes, and sometimes you find, especially those from the north, you say that it was ordained so.
Oh no.
We should not be blaming God for everything. We should also take precautions, while also ensuring that the security agencies, those people we employ, sweeping, carrying leather, debris here and there along from stadium up to Giri Junction, can we begin to look at those women as informants? Yes, we can, provided they can also stop flippancy. We should engage some of these taxis. I want to tell you, some of these repentant fellows, those who have grabbed, how do you do it? Do you have a place where you usually meet? And those who have fallen victims, they should also speak out. They took me to so place, they took us to so place, and this was how we escaped. The whole lot of things. But I want to tell Zainab, let us also forget. I've seen that in Daily Trust there. Let us also clap for good people in society. They said a pastor's son went and built
a borehole
for a mosque.
Yes.
I think we should be clapping for those people. We need them in society. Just like I was also seeing some clips where a reverend father somewhere in Gwagwalada area helped to complete a mosque. So look, we are neighbors. This is a church, this is a mosque. And I see that for a long time, excuse me, for a long time they've not finished, the Muslims have not finished building their mosque. When got the imam and said, gentlemen, look, we are neighbors. Why are we neighbors? We are here. And who is your neighbor? Let us help to conclude this mosque. And it was so agreed. And so you can see that under that situation, the worshippers, Christian church, worshippers, Muslim church, mosque there, they turn out to be good friends. These are people we should be promoting. We should look for avenues of this nature to ensure that friendship cuts across. And I still remember, sorry, those days when Kaduna and Katsina was still one. You pack students from Katsina, Dutsen, Mali, Gaura, you pack them to Southern Kaduna. You pack those ones from Southern Kaduna up there. It created a kind of unity, you know. But today we are not seeing all of these things.
Whatever happened to, you know, the toll-free emergency line, you know, just like the 911 in the U.S. There was a time where Nigeria actually had the 199, or was it the 119, a long time ago. You know, these numbers are actually easy to, you know, remember. And if one is in trouble, you just dial the number immediately, and then...
I agree with you.
Problem comes for you.
I agree with you. But you see, we ought to advertise those numbers very, very frequently.
Because the number we have now is quite long and lengthy. How can one remember?
We should have numbers that are so simple, 3 digits, 4 digits, you know, and they should cut across. In terms of community service, all GSM companies should have a common line. They could have it as 1111. 3333. All of them is common, so that people who are in distress can always call. And there has to be a control room where you have a combined team of security agencies, the police, the Navy, the Air Force, or you select the intelligence agencies. They just have a room somewhere where they monitor or wait for this kind of calls, you know. And the moment, and people should just be standing by these vehicles. You see police vehicles, rapid response team here and there. Once there is some call in Nyanya, then there's a taxi. There is a vehicle there. They just zoom into the area. So, look, intelligence will have to work. And GSM providers, service providers must always have, or should have. I think the National Assembly should ensure that a thing of this nature comes on board, so that you have simple numbers. Children will memorize that in school, just like they say traffic jam, travel, red light says stop, green light, yellow says ready, green says go. Some of these children, they memorize this and they know it. There was a day, I'm sorry to say this, I broke the light. My son said, "Daddy, they told us in school that when it is red, you stop." I had to apologize to him, you know, and that's yes. So that tells you, when it hangs in the children's mind, it is just there. They have always fallen victims. And we, the bigger ones too, there are instances. I'm sorry, there's a lady in my office. She's always falling victim of people grabbing her. They'll use her. They'll go and withdraw her money using her
ATM.
Her ATM. They'll take away the money and they abandon. See, they will still take her. When they reach somewhere, they push her away. She's always a victim. She's always a victim. May God protect her and many others.
Amen. Now, let's talk a bit about politics. We're seeing a lot of drama going on in the APC and also in the PDP, all at the same time, just as we're heading towards the 2023 general elections. In the APC, they're set to release, the zoning formula, and also there are speculations that they might suspend, their zonal congresses. In the PDP, on the other hand, the PDP has submitted Umahi's replacement to INEC. Despite this, the sacked governor is still hanging closely to his seat.
You see, when the governors, every small problem, there is fire in a market, the governor will run to the president. Dissidents have come, you will run to the president. APC had crisis, governors will run to the president. Too many things on the top of the table. Yes, they said the box stops on his table, but at the point why are you a governor? That place you are supposed to administer. If we're saying let's have state policing, let's have that so that much of the load is taken from the table of the president. Now we are talking politics. When APC was in crisis, you had this convention that never came. Every time we are waiting for the president to provide solution. The president, okay, I'll give my solution, and this is it. The next thing is, no, this one signed by the president every page, and the president has crowned someone he likes. No, it was received under pretext. It presented, and they started accusing a particular governor from the north. That already tells you that politically we are not yet getting it right when it comes to party politics. Apart from imposition, you look at it. Tell me, in PDP, tell me the chairman, national chairman, that actually left office with honors. Now we have APC. Tell me the chairman that has left with honors intact. So it's a whole gamut of things that when we're talking of those who indeed can manage crisis, manage conflict, the parties are in conflict within themselves and against themselves. How do we come out of it? And that's where we need that politician who indeed is capable of making things work. You're having a situation where a governor is being voted into using so platform. That your former party didn't like you, you moved to another one, that one gave you mandate. You become a governor. Now you return to where you feel you should belong. But the law is saying the party belongs, the vote belongs to the party. It once happened, Kogi and Rivers, Omahia, Celestine, And so we expect that now that they are still amending this law, let the law be so definite. Once you are in this party, you shouldn't move. If you move, then you leave your position. The governor is saying, Omai of Ebonyi State is saying that, look, it is an unusual. It was procured. The way he's putting it, I don't want to put it here, is like the judiciary received some inducements to deliver that kind of a justice. We should not ridicule the judiciary. It's my opinion. Neither should political parties too be ridiculing themselves before the eyes of the electorate. We need political parties that will not impose candidates. We need political parties that will have internal democracies. We need political parties that will ensure that this candidate that is needed by the electorate is the one actually featured. We need a system where now INEC is at the crossroads now. The ruling at the High Court is saying, look, give a certificate to the candidates of the PDP. Now, will INEC rush to court to look for stay of execution? Will INEC just wake up and say, I hereby do it, I'm obeying the law? Now, it's natural that Omai will use what we call the state machinery to go to court, and it will now prolong the entire process. In fact, judgment from the Supreme Court can come after 2023. Now, if you therefore rule that Omai never won the election, it was PDP that won the election, it means that you'll be calling him a dismissed governor. So, is that what we're going to look for in our own kind of polity? So, they should imbibe the three things they're talking about: indirect primaries, direct primaries, and consensus. And the consensus they're talking about, they said, if people contested against you, if they agreed that, yes, you are now, we have agreed that you should be, then they should sign a column. Will these politicians agree to all of this?
Oh, we hope
Now
to see
we are
that.
still also talking of the section that says, look, if you are a political appointee, you have to resign because you want to contest. Some people are saying if you don't do it that way, they already have advantages. A governor who is going for a second term, for example, all his SAs are already candidates to vote for him. And when you look at some of the voting patterns, the ballot papers are already numbered. The seats are already numbered. If you go the voting day, seat number 1 is automatically occupied by His Excellency, the governor. Seat 2, the deputy governor. Others in that way. Now, if His Excellency is not voted for a second term as a candidate, of course you can go back and edit this. Okay, seat number 20 downwards, they never voted for us. Look at it. So that does not augur well for our own kind of democracy.
Well, we hope to see change, happen subsequently as the election period is underway. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you.
We've been talking to the Director News Voice of Nigeria, Ben Sherman, giving us perspectives on some of the stories making headway on our dailies this morning. Let's take a quick time out. When we come back, the program will continue. Stay with us.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Moving on to our first discussion. You know, there's been a lot of global discussions about the role of small businesses in the development of an economy. Now, without small businesses, and particularly in developing countries, an economy will definitely collapse. In Nigeria, 27% of the country's trade balance comes from small businesses, but more importantly, they employ 60 million Nigerians and contribute 48% of the GDP. Now, an entrepreneur is here in the studio with us to share his experience in running a business in Nigeria. He's Engineer Mohammed Onotu, founder of Productive Youth Network and Read to Rise Nigeria Limited, and he's also author of the book What I Will Do If Unemployed. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
You have quite a resume, very interesting. Now, we get to see a lot of businesses, you know, but very, very few of them make it through. Some of them get to collapse, you know, midway. What really is the problem as someone who has started up a business and is doing quite well?
You know, the primary objective of any business owner is to be able to have a platform to have your aspiration pushed and at the same time being fulfilled, and also have a profitable venture. So when you have this, one of the things that comes to mind is that do you have a structure that can really support your pattern of idea? And you know, for you to have any business idea, it's a product of three factors: your skills, your experience, and definitely your environment. So these three forms a level of synergy. So when you're a business owner, the first thing that you're looking at is, my venture is going to be profitable, and at some point will I be fulfilled? So when you have a structure that is not sufficient enough to propel you on that path, you know, the challenges definitely starts to build up.
Oh.
Now, would you actually say Nigerian businesses are innovative or original? Because we've had a lot of instances where, you know, once someone starts up a business, you know, a lot of other people, you know, other, you know, businesses actually copy that same idea.
You're quite correct. You know, there are two things that drive entrepreneurship. It's either born out of necessity or born out of opportunity. So what you find out within our segment in Nigeria basically is that a lot of people, because of the high level of unemployment, are driven by necessity. So when you find yourself on that level, the next line of action is, what is the easiest way to jump into just for survival? So it's not necessarily out of maybe passion, out of maybe opportunity that you're seeing that you want to provide a solution to. So I think this is one of the major problems, because a lot of people are driven out of necessity for survival into businesses. So when you have, it's just like the POS businesses, we have tons of people going into POS businesses, not as if it's inclined towards their aspiration, because they think they have no any other option. So which also limits the innovation drive.
Right.
So when you have this, a lot of people need to also reflect inwardly and see, what can we do innovatively to address certain problems in the society, which can also be value-driven, which invariably would also be profitable going forward.
Okay. Now, to set up a business, you know, particularly for somebody who's just starting out, you need funds, you need money. Would you say Nigeria has explored, for instance, you know, seed funds, you know, or loans and some forms of ways to get money to actually start up your business? Would you say that's going well?
It's quite tricky, you know, because there's already this mindset that if you don't have strong level of connection, there are lots of opportunities that you don't have access to, which if you weigh it to a large extent, there's a reasonable level of fact to it. So when you talk about the proceeds, because of our population, we have a level of unique population. For instance, if you look at the statistics, we have an average of 18.4 years of our average age as Nigerians, and the population is like over 200 million, which is increasing by the day. So when you have such, the proceed, the capital market needs to have a level of step up in order to be sufficient enough. So this is where we find ourselves. So we have a little space and tons of people competing for the proceeds in order to invest into. So we need to also step that up in order to be able to compensate for the population that we have.
Okay, so now what type of a business ecosystem is, you know, best suited for small businesses in Nigeria and also the development of these businesses?
if you look at the trend ongoing, you see that there's lots of proceeds coming in from technology. So we're looking at it, okay, can we have a level of evaluation, especially with our TVETs, technical and vocational aspect, so that we can see, can there be a level of spring up with respect to innovation? Because this is where the future of the world economic lies. So can we key into this? Because if we're looking at the normal petty business, buying and selling that we're used to, is this sufficient enough to grow our economy? No. So that means we need to also now go back to the drawing board and see how can we, as even small businesses, as startups, because if you look at it, we have the potential for our startups to contribute to about 76% to our GDP. But are we doing enough? So which areas are we contributing to? So we cannot all just move into buying and selling and say we are entrepreneurial in nature. So what are the other options we can explore? So we need to also evaluate this as individuals and collectively as a nation.
Okay, so in terms of public-private partnerships, how important is it that we see that synergy in helping, small businesses grow?
It's quite necessary, you see. Because when you have that, let me give you an example. For instance, if you see Federal Medical Center, it's functioning well. Why? Because it's public-private partnership. So there's that level of checkmating each other. The private entity is looking at it that, okay, we have to on a minimum level, have a level of, let's have an idea of when we're going to get to our profitable margin. And the government is also looking at it. We have our assets. How can the partnership go in such a way that it's profitable? So both parties can checkmate each other and help each other, because there's a limit in which a private entity, especially if you're a startup, the government has the might. So if there's that level of synergy, it creates the ease of doing businesses, because there's already a scope aligned that is structured to create that ease of doing business, because there's that level of partnership, there's that level of synergy, and the interest are intertwined. So when you have such, everyone looks out for the interest of one another. So that's when, if there is synergy, there's potential for prosperity, and there's also the chances of being able to do more.
Okay, now you talked about technology earlier, and Microsoft has actually expressed worry, at the rise of cyber threats, saying businesses, especially in Nigeria, lack protection. What can these businesses actually do to, protect themselves from, cyber threats?
I think one of the major things that is needed is in any line of business, you need to have a well-researched platform before kickstarting. So it's not just something you jump into, because everything comes with its own challenges. And especially in fintech sector, you need a level of database, you need a level of research to be able to have a well-defined structure that would safeguard you, either with respect to your data, either in terms of your day-to-day running of your businesses. And also what is also key is that every startup, especially with what you've said now, that level of research is key, because it's not just something you jump into. That's why you see most of startups in that line, they face lots of challenges, especially with regulation. Because lots of people jump in without having the basic fundamentals. Okay, what are the licenses we need? What are the platforms we need? What's secured gateway platforms do we need in order to safeguard our transactions? So when you have this, you need to now fall back and reflect that, okay, before you go into any of this scope of businesses, there should be a well-researched platform. There should be, that foundational support, so that you know that these are the potential challenges you're going to face, and these are the solutions that should checkmate such going forward.
Okay, let's direct this to a layman, for instance, that doesn't know all of the, complexities of what you've just attributed now. Some people, if they want to start up a business, they have an idea. Okay, I want to start up a bread business. Some people just jump into it. Let me just start selling bread and all of that. And then for experienced business owners, you get to hear a business plan and some other things and all of that. For someone who has an idea and wants to start up a business, apart from the business plan, what are some of the things that you need to consider before you start up your business?
Okay. The thing I usually tell people is there's so much emphasis on business plan, and sometimes some people don't understand what the jargons are. So when you talk about business plan, in a layman, it's just you having an understanding of the scope of what you're getting yourself into, meaning that the operational side and also the financial side.
Right.
So have you done sufficient? So if you have an idea, for instance, as a startup, as a layman, the first thing that needs to be done is to do research. This idea is already in place. And so that in order for you not to reinvent the wheel, there are things that have already been tried with respect to the line of business. Let's assume the business you've mentioned. Make research. What have those people done well that made their businesses thrive?
Right.
What were the challenges that they faced? You know, you've not started now. You're at the foundation level and you're making research.
Right.
So that you're able to learn from the scope of those that have actually gone ahead of you. But if it's a new business, you need to also still make further research that this idea of yours, is it necessary? Is it needed at the moment? Is it addressing any problem? So if it is yes, so the next line of action, you've done your research, is to do market survey. Is it profitable? So what are the things that you're going to need, in order to kickstart this business? Then, we said it at the initial stage that the business plan is just to give you that scope of idea that, okay, operationally, these are the requirements that you need. Financial-wise, and these are the set objectives. This is the problem, this is the solution that this business will be providing. These are the outcomes.
Right.
So when you have such in your mindset, the next line you should say, okay, what business model? This is where a lot of people have
Quite a lot of challenges.
Yes. What is the business model? Business model is all about the management sequence that would come along with it. So what entails the business model? For instance, you're talking about your value proposition. What will you be offering that will be totally different from others? You can still be doing your POS business, but the value that you add to it drives more customers to you because it is clearly unique from others. The other thing you'll be considering is, okay, I have my well-defined value proposition. What market segment am I looking at? Who are my customers? What age duration am I looking at? What segment? Aside from that, you're also looking at it, okay, I've sorted that out. The next line is that, okay, key partners. Who can I partner with? Who are those that I can collaborate with to make my business thrive?
Grow.
You see that you're already making lots of assessments.
That's quite a lot because a lot of people don't look at that.
The next one you're asking yourself is that, okay, I've done my market segment, fine, I know my partners. The other thing that you're looking at is that my revenue streams. What are the things, how can I channel, all this, my businesses? So that comes to the next fragment, the channels. What are the routes, that you're going to move your businesses, what would be the most suitable location for you in order for your business to thrive? Because for instance, as a startup, you need to be very careful. The easiest thing to do is to, especially when you have lots of funds, is to just keep spending without, when you don't have a structure, the easiest thing that would happen is the business not to be profitable.
Terrible.
Because at no point will you hit a break-even point. So you need to have the structure in place, in order for you to have it at the back of your mind. Then one other thing that you need to consider is business registration. Because for your business to be legit, it needs to be registered with CAC, the Corporate Affairs Commission. So a lot of people are running businesses with names, with wonderful names, but not registered.
Wonderful
and
names.
they tell you So you need to evaluate that also.
That's quite a
the
lot.
Lego body that would make your business Lego in Nigeria is CAC. So you need to have that at the back of your mind also. So going forward.
Okay, so one thing a lot of, small-scale businesses underestimate, are business threats. It's one thing to, start up a business, with the euphoria and everything, but there are threats that actually come, while the business is ongoing that either, if you're able to handle it well, makes, or if you're not, mars your business. How can they identify these threats?
You've mentioned something very key. Identification is another thing. You being aware that there is a threat is another thing. Most people feel that business is just something that you just jump into. So when you are in that, the level of awareness is low. So, but for instance, one of the key factors that makes people very scared to go into business is the fear of unknown, uncertainty. You're looking at it that would the monetary policy favor me? with the capital market, is it going to be sufficient enough to support my businesses? The ease of doing businesses. So when you see lots of threats that go, some of the threats that goes into most of the businesses, some of the monetary policies might not be favorable. Sometimes when you look at also the environmental factors, for instance, you're doing, which example? You have a sewing business, for instance, and all your machines are electronic. And you're looking at it that one of the major factors you're going to face is power. And you're asking yourself, okay, how much will I be spending on servicing my generator in order to, and you're looking at it that this alone I will not be able to meet up. So in order to be able to face this, to be able to have a strategic plan towards converting this threat, research, like I said, is key. Before you go into a business, you've weighed your location, the location you're going into, and you say, okay, they have maybe 14 hours of power, and you'll be at the office space between 8 to 5 p.m. How much, you'd have done your level of evaluation. That number one evaluation, that research would have also given you a level of preparation to combat the threat. Then also the next line is that, okay, when this goes out of hand, are there people, what are the leverages? Do I need a level of partnership? For instance, should I just go ahead and get a space in a plaza and just pay my service charge? Or should I go to a place where I will be the one to buy my own generators? You see that you're incurring another cost. So these threats can easily be combated with a huge level of preparation and research pre-starting up the business. Then during the business operation, you also look at leverages that can help you sustain any level of challenges that unfolds.
Okay. This is more personal, than technical.
Okay.
We're not being sellouts here, but when you started your business, what are some of the challenges you encountered and how did you get through them?
You see, for instance, if you have an idea that is unique, especially something that you look at your left, you look at your right, and no one is doing it. The first thing that you need to do is to create a structure for yourself. And one of the major challenges that comes up with starting up any business is personnel. You as a founder, you might have the vision, fantastic idea of how you want your business to be, but you can't be everywhere.
Right.
Which is one of the major challenges most schools, private schools face. The founders, the owners have fantastic ideas, the vision of how they want their schools to be. But the challenge is the personnel to help you in the operational activities. Because you as the founder, you can be everywhere. You as the owner of the business. So the first challenge that comes is people to key into the vision that you have. Then when you leave that stage, that means you need to now create a structure of personnel. Okay, how do you assemble a good team, to help you in doing this? Then the next line of action is, okay, you have a good team, fantastic. Now, how do you sustain the team? Because everyone has their own aspiration. Maybe you're putting one of your team members on 100,000 and the guy is looking outside and I'm getting an offer of 150. The easiest thing that can do is the person leaves you.
Oh my.
And leaves them. And that's one of the major challenges fashion business owners are having.
Yeah.
Because they are tailors, they are only loyal to the income. So they are there, they are looking at it that, okay, my organ knows that I'm the best tailor here. So the guy can decide not to come on a day just to serve as an indirect level of protesting that, see, I know you're making money, and you have to also know that I'm the main person making your business work. Without having the idea that you've also invested, without the brand, there would not have been any platform for the tailor to excel.
Right.
So one of the basic challenge every business owner would always have is having that, that strong theme to help you in pushing, and also definitely the capital.
All right. Thank you so much for your insightful, perspective on, small businesses in Nigeria. Hopefully, we'll have you again, and it's very
And I hope
soon.
to have a look at your book
Thank
and
you
also
so
learn
much.
one or two.
No problem.
Yes. All right. So that was Engineer Mohammed Onotu, founder of Productive Youth Network and Read to Rise Nigeria Limited, and author of the book that Zainab wants to have a read.
Yes, I would love to have that.
What I Will Do If Unemployed. We'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, we'll move on to the second discussion.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think he will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a 4th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
All right, welcome back to the second discussion now. The APC had been polarized into factions in many states, and this was compounded by the crisis arising from parallel Congress at ward, local government and state levels. A National Reconciliation Committee was set up to resolve the crisis ahead of the party's national convention, earlier scheduled for February 26, but the committee did not achieve results. Now, the convention was consequently shifted to March 26. While at it, Bello took over on Monday in a dramatic manner from the Yobe State Governor, Mai Mala Buni, who is said to be currently in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Now, one crisis too many for the ruling party is one of the questions that a lot of people are actually asking today. And right here in the studio, we have joining us a member of the All Progressives Congress, Aliyu Audu. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's begin with the burning issue. A lot of people are talking about, the Niger State Governor taking over for Mai Mala Buni, who is currently in Dubai. Was this a planned move all along?
I mean, it's anticipated, not planned in any way for a progressive party like ours, and with the caliber of leadership we have in the party. If you've been following development in our party, there have been a lot of reactions from members, majority of members, regarding the way and manner the party is being managed, by the caretaker committee headed by His Excellency Governor Mai Mala Buni of Yobe State. And I mean, if you know clearly, in 2020, June to be precise, they were set up, when the then National Working Committee was disbanded, and the caretaker committee was set up for the sole aim of, conducting convention, like the name implies, Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, and they had 6 months to do that. They failed, requested for an extension, they failed. Another extension. I mean, we're about 2 years into it now, and we still don't have convention. And if you look at everything that's happened, our group, All Progressive Congress Rebirth movement, have been, at the forefront of calling party leaders and stakeholders, alike, to the awareness of the need to step up and ensure we do not go down the way the former, party in government did. And the need for us to do things differently in order to preserve, the legacies of President Muhammadu Buhari and, continue to deliver on the promises we made to Nigerians who overwhelmingly, supported the party and our vision to, make Nigeria a greater country. I think in the recent development, I mean, most of the things APC Rebirth have been pushing out regarding all of the internal plans, hidden plans and agendas of a selfish few who want to impose their wishes on the party at the expense of the majority of the party. I mean, they all came to light. And of course, like you expect, the real leadership of the party won't be happy with it. And actions are now being taken from things that have happened in the last 2 days as to, quietly and gently easing, the chairman and the secretary of the caretaker committee out, so that the other members of the committee will take charge, provide leadership, because members are have nearly almost lost hope and trust in them. They've said too many things about this convention, and we have seen so little to believe. And I'm confident that Governor Bello will restore that trust, that hope, and that confidence in members that, true to the plan, 26th March will come, and it will be, hitch-free, it will be credible, and whichever way we decide to go, be it direct, indirect, or consensus, it's going to be true, in every sense of it, in ways that both aspirants, emerging candidates and members of the party will be comfortable and will be happy with the outcome, in line with the the desire of Mr. President to ensure that power at all levels are returned to the people who truly, own the powers.
Okay. Now, there have been some reports that some governors actually plotted the removal of Buni. How true is this?
There will always be, talks about plots and no plots. I mean, it's politics. We're used to this. But the fact is, maybe, just maybe, if Mai Mala Buni, His Excellency, had done what he was supposed to do, in the first 6 months, he probably would have exited honorably, And I remember clearly that a couple of weeks back, we in our press release, we sent a note to him asking him to try as much as possible to honor the new date of the 26th, after we had raised alarm at the time, that the 26th of February wasn't feasible, that it was a calculated plan to further shift the convention, knowing that if you go back, just search the internet and you see our press release regarding that, when we stated that, the 17th and 18th weekend were a better date, to do our convention, knowing that the 26th was already marked for by-election in 6 states that the APC will be taking part in. So it would have, we knew from get-go that it was impossible to have convention on the 26th, and we knew it was a plan for them, and we knew they had obtained, certain, through their third parties, certain court injunction that would stop the convention, because their original plan is to be in a position. Mai Mala wanted to be national chairman to carry out the convention and carry out the primary for 2023. That was his original plan all along. And he didn't care how detrimental that could be to our party, to the legacy of Mr. President, to our democracy, and to the nation at large. If you understand clearly, we have 2023 to set things right for the country, and APC is in a poor position to do that. The level of brain drain between the ages of 18 and 50, the first choice on the average Nigerian list right now is to get out of this country. It is becoming a country of no hope. So much has been achieved by this government in the last nearly 7 years. So much has been achieved compared to, the previous years that were wasted by the then government in power, party in power. In order to consolidate on this, in order to build on this, we need, as an institution, a political institution, to improve on our processes, on the way we do things. We need to put our best foot forward, at every instance. And we didn't just do that. We didn't do that. And if you rather, for selfish reason, risk the legacy of Mr. President, risk losing the general election to the opposition. It was clear. He had it coming. He had the option to make history for himself, but I would say it's up to any governor. No governor should. I'm even thinking that they acted too late, but not too late. Better late than never. But he saw it coming himself. He couldn't have done this for this long to this number of people and expect that at some point people will rise up and react. He cost it to himself. No governor did it for him. He could have done what he was supposed to do in 6 months and exited the place in praises, but
okay.
This is how it has to go.
Now, reports are actually saying that the president ordered the removal of Mai Mala Buni, but does the president actually have, the rights to order the removal of any member of the CPC, who is actually a product of a collective decision of the party's, NEC meeting?
All right. To set that straight, Mai Mala Buni, as we speak, has not been removed.
Okay.
There've been change of guard at the affairs of the caretaker committee. Not only owing to his absence. I'm told he's away on medical trip. I wish him the best of health. But I think it is more of still the caretaker committee re-engineering itself to ensure they deliver on the mandate. Any other thing that has to happen will happen democratically, will happen in line with the constitution of our party. Mr. President is a Democrat, and he has proven that time and time again. Mr. President has refused to intervene on electoral matters that in a way could favor his party like the previous presidents have. You know, he wouldn't violate the constitution of the party or that of the, country by doing anything that isn't supposed to be done. What has just happened is just, Governor Bello acting, in the capacity of the head of caretaker committee right now. Then, if you are aware, there's been a notice of NEC meeting. NEC is the only active board. I mean, we haven't done the convention, and the board of trustees isn't in place. So the next organ of the party that have the power is the NEC, which he has rightly called for a meeting with a 7 days notice. I expect that other actions required to put our party on the path of glory will be taken at the NEC, and that will be, well within the provisions of our constitution, and they'll be disregard any such information as saying Mai Mala has been sacked by Mr. President. Now, everything that needs to be done will happen during the NEC meeting.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that the APC has achieved quite a lot, in the last 7 months or so. Despite, the insecurity the nation is facing, and despite the hardship a lot of people are facing, a lot of people would actually not agree to that.
Yes, I'll say this, the one area we have failed, not failed, we haven't performed. Yeah, I mean, call it what it is, we have failed. Indeed, it's in area of communication. We haven't done well in terms of managing information and communication with our employers, which is the Nigerian populace. We've been high-headed in some instances, and we've been, seemingly bossy, to provide information or to respond to information. I mean, we came in with a lot of promises. We came in with a lot of hope, not because we wanted to just mislead Nigerians. We came in because we knew as a country, we were headed in a direction that we shouldn't be. But there were a lot more that should have been, that we didn't know of. Quite frankly, there were a lot more that we didn't know of before we got into power. So we had made promises that we intended to keep, but there were challenges that we faced, and there were challenges that were not just peculiar to Nigeria, peculiar to our regime. There were global challenges. If you look at the global indices from 2015 till date, it has been, rocky for even the most developed nations, And we have managed to, push through those difficult moments and coming out on top. And this has been down to the sincerity, honesty of Mr. President, his determination to leave a lasting legacy, and, the vision, his vision and that of the party for a greater Nigeria. This has happened, but there have been challenges too that have made some of the promises we made unachievable at the rate and at the times we promised to make them. But what we needed to have done at the very beginning, the moment we started all of this, we noticed what we didn't know was to communicate easily. I mean, over the years, people make governance seem like a cultist, a secret cult. No, it isn't. It's democracy. It's government of the people, for the people, by the people. I mean, you look at it today and you see that 85% of those in government were not in government some 10, 11 years ago, especially at the center. So the people who are outside complaining today, largely, part of them will find themselves in government tomorrow. But if things don't change, then it's down to us as a people. So what I think we, as a progressive party, should have done in government was to have managed the information better, communicate to Nigerians, where we were making success, where the challenges were, what the hardship, what the impact of some bad choices we've made as a people, as a government in the past would be on us, and how to, cushion those effects through I mean, the SIP was largely designed to cushion some of this effect. It wasn't like they were largely unanticipated, but I'll say again, down to our communication and the effectiveness of those projects or programs that were instituted to take care of this. I'll tell you, if you mentioned security, in global indices, in terms of equipping our military, we have gone, high up. In terms of, I mean, we knew they were like a geographical location that were under the control of terrorists and all of that prior to our community government. That is not happening today. I mean, Borno is way better. I mean, that is the epicenter of insecurity in the country, or probably in the region for a long time. It is different today. I mean, I must give credit to Professor Zulum, who's doing a fantastic job as a governor, and I'm happy he's a progressive governor. Such are governors that we are proud of, and we want to have more in our party. When these challenges happen, what we needed to do was to communicate to the people and let them understand. If a bus, full with people, traveling in a direction, suddenly realizes that they're in the wrong direction, to make a U-turn, there's going to be a lot of inconvenience. You probably have experienced that even in a car. There's going to be a lot of inconveniences making a U-turn and getting back on the right track. I think that U-turn, that process of making that U-turn is where we are. What we're feeling at the moment is just that temporary inconvenience that we all need to be aware of. We all need to know that we have had years where we sold barrels of oil for $110, $115 per barrel. We're selling 2.1 million barrels every day.
Okay.
There was no infrastructure. There was no investment in security. It was private jet, it was yacht, it was private spending, it was corruption. We are all aware of this. And we understand the fact that over the decades, corruption has actually, taken so much shape that it was feeding a series of legitimate businesses. So the moment the president came in through his, corruption fighting, loopholes blocking.
I think we're going to digress a little bit. When the new date was fixed for the APC convention, we heard there were going to be zonal congresses. But now we're hearing that is suspended. Why?
Zonal Congress is alien to our constitution. And the moment they made that out, we the APC Rebirth, we reacted to it, that there's no such thing in APC constitution. What we have regarding zonal ZEC, committee, zonal executive committees, who are national officers that are supposed to be elected on the ground of national convention. They are not zonal officers, they are national officers deployed to zones. By our constitution, all of those positions are national officers, and there is no such thing. I mean, there are only 3 congresses, 3 places such should happen. Is it 3? I mean, we have the World Congress, the local government Congress, and the state Congress, then the convention. Exactly. These are the 4 places where officers of the party are expected to be elected. There is no zonal Congress. Zonal Congress was just a design, a time-wasting design by Mai Malabuni and the secretary, especially, so as to buy more time, to push us to a point where they'll be able to tell us that we have no time but to join presidential primary of 2023 and national convention together, in order to fuel their, ulterior evil plans. But thank God we are past that now, and
yes.
Rightly. Yeah.
All right. So you actually seem affirmative that the internal wrangling in the APC would have actually come to an end right now. But the latest one has to do with the national secretary resigning. While in some quarters, it is actually said that he was forced to resign. Just in 1 minute, can you clear the air on that before we wrap up?
I'm not privy to that. I do not know. I mean, I have seen videos, but I do not take seriously things I see on social media until I see them on pages of, places I know are verifiable. So I'll play the fifth on that.
All right. I think with that, we've come to the end of this discussion. Yes. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on Daybreak today. That was a member of the All Progressives Congress, Aliyu Audu, joining us in the studio. And with that, we've come to the end of Daybreak today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Darshan Husseina Osman.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.